Welcome to Carrying Connected Conversations. I'm Sydney, a spiritual mentor who guides and supports you to live in alignment by finding and owning your power.
I'm Angie, a fitness and life coach, teaching you to love yourself unconditionally by staying accountable to your goals in fitness, food, life, and love. Sid and I are real-life BFFs and biz partners. Our deepest desire is to see you succeed in life by being willing and vulnerable to step out of your comfort zone.
We're constantly learning from each other while also providing support through every breakdown and every breakthrough. Not every conversation is easy. It's the difficult ones that lead you to create deeper connections in your life.
We want to inspire and empower you to love your life. So get ready for conversations filled with laughter, tears, and everything in between. Let's get connecting.
Hey guys, just before we jump into the episode, I just want to give you a little bit of a disclaimer. If you haven't already noticed, this is our first time doing a YouTube video for our podcast. And so we had a couple little technical difficulties while uploading the video. So you'll notice that when I'm speaking, you can't actually see my face. Don't worry, the video shifts closer to the middle, and in future we're learning from our mistakes and hopefully we won't experience this again. So thank you so much for your patience, and let's jump into the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Carrying Connected Conversations, episode 101 to be exact. And I mean, if you're here watching this, then you know our most exciting, newest news that we are on YouTube. And we wanted to celebrate this moment of reaching 101 episodes by having a bit of a special episode. So you can't hear this episode just on podcast apps. You can only watch this episode right here on YouTube. And it's going to give a little glimpse into how we're moving forward with the podcast. Don't worry, we're still going to be on podcast apps, but we're just really excited to connect with you guys, to show our faces, and maybe to have a little bit more of a conversation with you as the listener. So if you're listening right now, if you're watching right now, and you've been following along in our entire journey with this podcast, drop a comment, let us know, say hello, tell us how long you've been listening to the podcast, where you live, and if you consider yourself an empath, we would love to hear from you. But let's jump right into the episode. This week, we are going to be kind of giving an updated version of Get to Know Sid and Ange. So before we jump into it, let's introduce my co-host, my best friend, Angie. How is it going? What's going on? What are you up to? Give me all the deets.
Hey, hi, how are ya? I am doing so well, but besides being so well, I'll be completely honest with you guys, I feel so nervous. And I don't know why I feel so nervous, but I need to say it just that way I can feel it and release it, so that way I can move through it in the bestest way possible. And I think the nerves are coming from the whole reason why we're recording this episode is episode 101. And we decided that, like Sid was saying at the start, that we wanted to reintroduce ourselves, because who we were on episode number 1, we're two completely different people. For example, for myself, when we started the podcast literally 2 years ago, it still blows my mind thinking that. But when we started that podcast 2 years ago, I was in a very long-term relationship. It was getting close to that 7-8 year mark, and I am no longer in that relationship. So now turning into this whole idea of, okay, well, who are we? Let's reintroduce ourselves. For the past year, I've been so uncertain in who I am, because who I thought I was for the first 29 years of my life, well, I guess in that regard, the first 28 years of my life, I thought I knew who I was. I was always that person that someone wanted me to be, that people pleaser would always come out in me. And now I finally have this opportunity to just be whoever I want to be. And I think that is so scary, because I don't have somebody telling me what to do anymore. I don't have somebody or anybody really just saying, hey, do this, you're this person, fit in this societal box. I'm in this position where I can fully express myself. So who I am now is someone totally different from 2 years ago, because I'm still in the process of rediscovering myself. And to give you guys a little bit more of a background story on who I am, I, as well as Sid, we both run our own businesses, and we decided to come together on a podcast platform to chat about these difficult conversations that we have in our lives. And specifically for myself and my business, I'm a fitness and life coach. So funny enough, I help my clients, my female clients, get them to understand who they are so that way they can keep moving forward in that direction, whether it's specifically in their fitness, whether it's specifically in their nutrition, or maybe they're struggling with their emotions or some sort of other aspects into their life. But I help them get to that point. That doesn't mean that I'm perfect and I already have my life all together. As you clearly just heard me, I'm still figuring this part out of myself. So yeah, that's really what's going on. And let's go ahead and change the tables. And Sid, let's figure out who you are, what you're doing here, and all the things.
I really like how you explained an updated version of, where you're finding yourself today. And I love how you touched on that you're not perfect. And so even though you help your clients, you're still moving through a lot of that yourself. So I just want to take a second there and just kind of congratulate you for where you are today and how you're allowing yourself to be undefined in a sense. So yay for you. I'm so excited to see you continue to succeed and where life takes you. So yes, for those of you that don't know, my name is Sydney. I am a spiritual mentor, but more than just what I do in my work, I am an empath. I'm an intuitive, a sensitive soul, and a psychic. And what that means to me is I am a feeler. I feel a lot of emotions. I am a seer. I can see things that are not necessarily in our physical reality. I am a healer in my own regard, in constantly trying to heal myself, and with what I do with my community, my clients, and my friends, if they're open to it. I would never push someone into healing, obviously. But ultimately, what led me to this point, if you don't know my story, is I experienced a mental, emotional, and spiritual breakdown. And it really was a moment in time where I realized I had lost myself. I had forgotten my spirit. Ange, as you said, you're a people pleaser, and I am as well. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad characteristic. I think people pleasing can be really beautiful if we learn to use it in the right way, right? And I think in my healing journey, I've learned how to create harmony with my people-pleasing tendencies, because I don't now believe that I need that external validation, in the sense of showing up for other people then makes me a worthy person. I'm allowed to show up for myself. I'm allowed to make sure that I'm seeing my needs and I'm providing for my needs. And then when I lead myself into a space of feeling uplifted and peaceful, it's that much easier for me to carry compassion to help other people, whether it's a family member that needs help moving or doing something. It's a friend that's moving through, a breakup and they just need support. Or it's a client that is healing from their past pain or their old behaviors that don't serve them. In that space, I need to make sure that I'm not taking on the energy of those other people. You're on your spiritual journey, desiring to create a deeper connection with your inner spirit and your soul path. But you feel lost in how to create more joy and calmness through life's challenges. In the meditation membership, you will feel seen for who you are and understood in a way that feels empowering and uplifting, alongside a community of like-minded beings. For only $33 per month, you will get 2 live calls filled with spiritual lessons, open-minded conversation, and powerful guided meditations. Join the meditation membership for more connection and support as you grow into the best version of you. And that's what makes me different today than who I was 2 years ago when we started this podcast, is I still was taking on the energy. Even though I was showing up for myself, I was still feeling that emotional exhaustion from taking on other people's pain, because I wanted to help them heal and reach happiness. And so now I've learned how to protect my energy so I can still show up in that space, but not necessarily take on the energy. So that's kind of what makes me different today than who I was 2 years ago. And just briefly, as a spiritual mentor, what I focus on with my clients is helping them to better understand who their inner spirit is, how their higher self speaks to them, right? I believe that as a human, we're actually a spirit first. And in our human tendencies, we've forgotten the magic and divinity that we all carry. And so I work really hard at helping people connect to the universe in a way that feels good to them, and learning how their intuition speaks to them, and living a life peacefully and purposefully. So that's a little bit about me, who I am, and what I do.
I love it. And, I want to kind of reiterate something, because if you guys are watching this for like the first time ever, this might just seem like, okay, these are who these people are. But I highly encourage you guys to listen to episode number 1, Get to Know Sid and Ange, because even how we are speaking, not only to each other, but just how we present ourselves. I know for myself, I have definitely firmly improved my public speaking. I always, as I'm doing it right now, would stump over my words, but I would do it very often. And when we first created this podcast as well, our intention, where it lied, was we wanted to kind of connect mind, body, spirit. And I'm sure, as you can kind of hear who we are right now, there is that huge connection piece, and it still is there. Yes, I am more of the body fitness style-ish expert, and then Sid is more of the soul style expert. Together, we bring our mindset, and I think that is where the power lies in why we've even decided to create this podcast, because when we can carry on difficult conversations that relate to us from our physical abilities to, as well as our mental abilities, to then our spiritual abilities, it's a lot easier for us to kind of bring two completely different perspectives and then amalgamate them together, because we're two completely different people, as I'm sure you guys are hearing. So when we move through these conversations, it's really to open up and to show our listeners that there are literally two different ways on looking at something. And that's not to say that there's only two ways. These are just our two ways. And we're just two completely different people, but we're two people that are so willing and want to be so vulnerable in explaining and chatting about these difficult conversations, the ones that most people don't really want to, or just want to sweep under the rug for a later time.
And I think on top of that, how the podcast has shifted and evolved since we started it, exactly as you're saying, we have gotten as individuals so much more confident in who we are and how we show up in life, right? I think when we started the podcast 2 years ago, if you were in the position of not being able to fully explain who you are, that would have freaked you out and you wouldn't have wanted to share that part of you. And I think that right there, like I said, shows the difference in how the podcast has shifted, because if you listen to the first year of episodes, yes, we shared our own experiences, but we were really coming from a space of wanting to teach people. Mm-hmm. And now we're in a space of realizing, let's just share our authentic experiences. And maybe through the lessons that we learn, people will be able to learn as well. But we don't need to sit here and spew all these tips at you. We can just show up and share what we're moving through and how we've learned from that experience. So I personally love how we've created this shift in the podcast.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because it totally was very, I want to say like teachy, not preachy, but teachy. Like we were really wanting our listeners to understand certain things. And to be quite honest, I think it was the most perfect way we could have ever done it, because if we weren't explaining where we were at and the things that we had learned, it'd be that much harder to understand where we're coming from when we are showing up with that embodiment of those teachings that we were, previously chatting about. So now that shift is just, hey, this is what we know, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're showing up. Tired of trying multiple fad diets and various workout programs, yet still feel like there is nothing working? Lacking the consistency and confidence in your own knowledge of what to do in and out of the gym is why those last 10 pounds feel impossible to lose. You need the accountability to remind yourself that this is a lifestyle you're creating, not an end result. Why? Because your happy, healthy life is the result. I'm here to show you how to feel good about your body every single day, and the Fit and Free membership does just that. It's for the woman who needs accountability and a structured program or routine. For only $40 a month, you'll get 8 live recorded workouts with a personal trainer, 1 mindset coaching call, and over 50 plus different workouts to do on your own every single month. Get started by joining the Fit and Free membership today. It also creates a lot more relatability with our listeners, and especially why we wanted to go into YouTube, because we wanted to create more of a sense of a community. And I know, well, obviously I know, so does Sid know. Maybe you guys don't know, but we've had multiple guests on our podcast from episodes 1 all the way through till like 101. We've had several guest speakers, and it's been such a beautiful space to bring somebody else into the podcast for them to also share their perspective, so that way we can share that with the world. Because again, we're here to share those difficult conversations, the things that we don't necessarily always want to chat about or even admit. I think that's the hardest piece too, is admitting.
And I love how you tied in the guests that we've brought on, because earlier you were saying, we have 2 different perspectives, but that doesn't mean that there's only 2 perspectives. I think the podcast has really shown us what it means to be open-minded and recognizing that everyone has a different perspective. And what we experienced with our guests is we got to hear their perspective and how they move through life. And so bringing the podcast onto a new platform like YouTube, we're wanting to connect to the listeners. So in the comments, we can see what's your perspective, because that all allows us to grow even more. And who knows? Maybe we'll do a live stream and we'll be able to connect with you live, and you can chat with us while we are live, which is the definition of a live stream.
But like interact live is clearly what you're trying to say.
Thank you. Thank you for
you're so welcome. I got you,
better set of words.
I got you.
So now that we've shared a little bit more about, where you are today, where I am today, where the podcast is today, and why we're creating this shift, what do you think, Ange, if we kind of wrap things up and jump into a card reading?
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? I know we kind of chatted about this, but I just want to say it again. I am so excited for our listeners to literally watch you shuffle these cards, because you can only hear you shuffle on the mic, right? Like during our regular podcast, but this time we can actually see you, what it looks like in real time, how you actually intuitively get the guidance that you need in order to pick the right cards. So yeah, I'm just really excited for our listeners to also see this too.
So good. So exactly as Ange is saying, I'm just going to give the cards a nice little shuffle here, and just take a second and just make sure, with this new shift that we're moving through, this episode is live at the end of 2021, getting ready to head into a new calendar year. We're starting a new project. I know a lot of people are kind of creating shifts in their personal and their professional lives. So with that in mind, just asking, what do we need to know right now as we kind of shift through this phase of life, whenever it is that you're watching this, even if you're watching it years later, months later, you're watching it because the message here needs to come to you at that moment in time. So what are we needing to know right now? Bringing in a piece of guidance for the collective. And there we are. So 1 card today, and it is Porcupine Innocence. Free yourself of guilt and shame. And honestly, this connects directly to kind of what Ange and I were talking about before we started recording. And Ange, you kind of mentioned it at the beginning there when you were explaining yourself and allowing yourself to not be in a box and allowing yourself to not feel pressured into having to know who you are in this moment, right? We feel that guilt of like, well, I should know who I am and I should know what I'm supposed to be saying or what I'm supposed to be doing. I know for myself, last night or yesterday, from recording this, my ego thoughts popped in and said, I'm not doing enough. And the moment that my ego thoughts say I'm not doing enough, this hamster wheel starts spinning that makes me feel so small, and it makes me want to step away from my soul purpose. It makes me want to give up my dreams and desires because I feel like I'm unable to move forward. And that's the shame that we put on ourselves from that societal pressure of thinking that we're supposed to do life a certain way, right? We've already mentioned that there is an unlimited amount of perspectives. And so that literally means that there's an unlimited amount of ways of doing things. But if you continue to guilt and shame yourself, then you are carrying this heavy energy of pressure and forcefulness. And even if you reach your dreams and desires, it's not going to feel good because you're carrying an energy that doesn't feel good. It's that reminder that just because we have something doesn't mean it gives us the sense of fulfillment. We have to be first. And Porcupine Innocence is saying you need to step back into the carefree innocence that you are as a spirit. Let go of the pressure on the roles and responsibilities of what we think we should or should not be doing. Come back into this space of remembering that you are divine. So free yourself of guilt and shame.
That like couldn't be any more perfect. Honestly, I know I felt that because, as I said, I'm still trying to figure out who I am. But the only way for me to do that is to free myself from that guilt and the shame that I've been living to up until the point where I started to understand that it's okay for me to choose who I want to be. And I'm really hoping that this card also resonated with some of our listeners today, because that hit home for me.
Before we wrap things up here, because this is a new platform, we just want to remind you, yes, on podcasts, we love it when you leave a rating and review, but right here on YouTube, it does wonders for us when you subscribe, when you hit that thumbs up button saying that you like it, and when you turn on the notification. So ring the little bell. Ringing the bell basically means that you will be notified when we come out with a new video or a new episode, so you won't miss out ever. And as always, leave a comment. So I'm going to ask, before you wrap things up here, Ange, I'm going to ask a question, kind of like I did at the beginning, because I want to know more about our listeners. What have you been carrying guilt and shame around for yourself? Ange already shared hers. I already shared mine, where I feel like I'm not doing enough. If you want to take control of your life, you have to be willing to see the darkness within. So what are you carrying guilt or shame around? If that's too vulnerable for you, then answer the second question. And if you want, you can answer both. Second question, as we head into the new year, or whenever you're listening to this, watching this, what is one desire that you hope for in 2022? So bringing harmony to the darkness and the light.
I love it. Those are great questions. I'm already like thinking in my mind, I'm like, ooh, what is that one thing in 2022 that I'd like to bring? And it's hard to pick just one. So I wanted to say thank you so much for being here for our first ever YouTube episode. I can't believe this. Episode 101. Like, we're here. We're in the triple digits. Halabala. Who's this Kala? So good. So good. So as Sid mentioned earlier, don't forget to hit that little alert button so that way you get your notifications turned on when we do upload a brand new episode. We are hoping to do this every single week, just as we are uploading episodes every single week on all of the podcast platforms available. So that's anywhere from Buzzsprout to Spotify to Apple to Stitcher to Google to all the other platforms. Make sure that you guys check us out on whatever platform feels the best for you when you're not in a mood to necessarily watch us. But if you're liking to watch us, well, thank you for watching us. That means the absolute world. And with that said, guys, we're going to leave it here, and we are sending you so much love. We are sending you so much light. We are sending you so much encouragement. We are sending you so much willingness to just really discover who you are and own the freaking shit out of it. Okay? Like, own it. You got this. We love you, and we will chat at you guys next week.